Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoya. This morning I want to take you to Parliament and to look at the work of the ad hoc committee so far. You'll recall that an ad hoc committee of Parliament made up of various political parties has just been set up to inquire into the damning allegations that General NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI made on the 5th of July 2025. Now it will appear that Parliament, after a lot of hurdles over the terms of reference, are almost done with that. And the one thing that they were unanimous about was that the first witness before that inquiry must be General NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI. That is very appropriate, given the fact that it was General MKHWANAZI who broke the news and enlightened the whole of South Africa about just how endemic corruption has become in this country. But more tellingly, about how corruption has worked its way throughout the South African police services, right up to the level of deputy commissioners, and right up to the minister himself. Because you'll recall that, we all know, you don't even have to recall this. The Minister of Justice, or Minister of Police rather, Senzo Mchunu, has been placed on leave of absence. And by the look of things, this trend or this tale of corruption went right up to the highest levels. That is why Senzo Mchunu finds himself today suspended, because that leave of absence is really some kind of suspension. He's still enjoying the full benefits of the job, like his salary, his blue light, protection services, and all the other perks that go with being a minister. So the rot goes really deep. It goes really deep. And it was NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI who blew it out all into the open. NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI has opened up a Pandora's box, and the skeletons will come tumbling out. Now, MKHWANAZI, like I've just said, has been correctly identified as the first witness. He will be able to set the stage, to get the ball rolling, so that South Africa, once and for all, gets to hear from the horse's mouth. We have had something so far, but what we expect out of the committee sittings and the testimony of NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI is raw detail. And I want to emphasize this very strongly. We need people with the necessary expertise, evidence leaders with the necessary expertise and experience for that kind of work. In other words, people who will be able to lead evidence, to elicit evidence out of General NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI. What am I talking about here? I am saying what South Africa needs to hear from NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI in that parliamentary inquiry are raw details. In other words, we must steer away from generalizations, because generalizations really don't tell us anything. If a man makes a statement like, crime levels in South Africa are soaring all the time, that's a general statement. That is not the sort of thing that South Africa is looking for. What we are looking for here are details. General NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI has fingered, among other things, among other entities, the police, the prosecution, politicians, and the judiciary. So we have a long way to go with this man. And now these entities are alleged by General MKHWANAZI to be acting in cahoots, acting hand in glove with criminal syndicates out there. So that, perhaps these days you cannot even distinguish who the criminal and the cop is. But once NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI takes the stand, we need to get details along this line. Who is it? Just to give you an indication of what I'm talking about. Who is it that is involved in corruption in the South African police services? If that person happens to be Advocate Hoyani, he must be identified as Advocate Hoyani. And once that identification has been made, then we must get the full details of what sort of corruption is involved in, when did he start getting involved in these activities, and what sort of activities are these? But more importantly, we need to establish exactly who the other members of the network are. In other words, we need to broaden the scope to bring everybody within the ambit of that inquiry who is implicated in one way or another in criminality in South Africa. So I have said in my opener that we don't want generalizations, because generalizations, are like principles. Generalizations don't tell us anything. We need details, the finer details, the nitty-gritty of who is involved. This is where NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI's evidence will be very important. Because NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI has named very senior people in the South African police services. For instance, General Shadrack Sibiya, the Deputy Commissioner, Crime Intelligence, who incidentally has also been placed on leave of absence, together with Minister Mkulu. So we have to get the details of the involvement of people like that with the syndicates that NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI talked about. Because you see, South Africa is in real trouble here. We are talking about syndicated crime. We are not talking just about, purse snatching incidents, sporadic and, random acts of crime. We are talking about crime which is syndicated, which is planned and executed, right, by the criminal syndicates rather, working in cahoots with senior politicians, members of the judiciary, you name all those institutions. So we need to widen the net. And NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI must name names. He must not be restrained or restricted from naming names. Because you see, information that does not carry a name is worse than a fairy tale. In other words, we cannot have information that there is a syndicate. You see, a general statement like that. We must know who the members of the syndicate are, and whether they're inside or outside government, and so on and so forth. So that is the message that I'm sending out today to South Africans. That if we do not get that kind of detail, then the whole exercise is futile, because it will leave us with more questions than answers. When the real purpose behind forming that committee, the real purpose behind the establishment of the committee, is to sort of, do away with all the speculation that is doing the rounds. And given the sort of man that NHLANHLA MKHWANAZI is, he will not need a lot of guidance by way of eliciting information out of him. You could see from that explosive interview, excuse me, you could see from his demeanor in that explosive interview that the man has got truckloads and truckloads of information and is ready to share it with South Africans. So it will not be a very difficult exercise, to get him to give us that kind of information. That is the message that I'm sending out this morning. It remains to be seen when and how soon the committee calls him. Because like I've said, the committee has in the recent past been bogged down in administrative red tape. I think those hurdles are sort of, ironed out now. And the real game is about to begin. But that is the only rider that I'm bringing to you this morning. We need full details. Nothing but full details. A breakdown of names, if X amount of money are involved, we must know exactly how much money is involved, that sort of thing, and nothing less. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video, and let me thank you for all the likes and subscriptions that I'm seeing. The Daily Fix is 1 year old. Thank you very much for your support. I have gone way beyond my own expectations, way beyond the 10,000 subscriber mark. And I know even 20K now is just within reach because of the support that I'm getting from you. In no time, I know we'll make it to 20K. With your support, I always say everything is possible. Thank you very much.